my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and this is the Golden Age top 10 of the week that didn't happen. So, normally on Sundays, which is today, I do my top 10, where I look at the hottest Golden Age books of the year. Well, this year, this time is the very end of the year, and I thought maybe we should reflect a little bit on the year that has just passed. I was doing hot lists not just for Golden Age, but for Silver Age as well, and it was a very interesting year. We had some record sales, and we had some record losses as well. One of the ones that comes to mind is Superman #1, which which had the biggest loss of value of any comic in history, where it lost over $1 million in value. So I thought that was like, interesting because, I'm always going on about, oh, Golden Age is where it's at. And, but, sometimes even Golden Age books can get overhyped and lose in value. Now, the Superman 1 book, I kind of like to get into that a little bit more and just say that I think when it was bought originally, it was during peak COVID, when there was people coming into the comic book collecting hobby that were not necessarily collectors. They were potentially investment people, people that were hardcore speculators, not just speculators that are like mom and pop kind of like casual speculators, or even people that are trying to do it as a small business. These were more investment houses that might have multiple people, like, or tens of people, like lots of people who pool money together to buy big books. I feel, and I don't have any evidence to prove this, but I felt like the purchase of both Amazing Spider-Man, Amazing Fantasy 15 that had that record sale, and this Superman that had a record sale fit into that kind of collector house, or whatever, like sort of an investment house kind of purchase. And I think when they sold it, they didn't understand the market well enough to realize that, hey, maybe they're not going to get the same price as when they bought it. They had overpaid. And that can happen with these portfolio style companies. They want to just have something that's impressive on the books, and they might have overpaid just to have that on the books. So I had a feeling that that's what kind of happened with that book, because to lose $1 million in value, it seems a little bit much, but that's part of the fun of this year. Another thing that we saw this year was just a sheer drop in value. What I would equate if I was going to say what was the general theme of the year, if we just look at the Silver Age, and that was another series that I did every Monday, was Silver Age top 10. If we look at just the top 10 Silver Age, the general theme was finding the floor. Where is that floor? Like, how far down can these books go? And a lot of them actually still haven't reached that floor. What I saw a lot of them doing, and I would say like 50% of the books, because some of them actually drop below the floor. When I say floor, what I mean is the price that was set for the books before COVID, the COVID spike, before the COVID bump. And what you generally would see is, like, here's the trend line. It would just kind of go steady, and nice little trend line gradually going up. And then during COVID, it kind of went boop and then back down, right? And then went back. A lot of the books, like I would say about half the ones that I kind of explored, were going back to that trend line, and back to normal, back to normal. But there were the other 50% kind of went right through that trend line and actually went below the prices that were set before COVID. And there is some explanation for that. A good example of that would be something like a She-Hulk #1, Sensational She-Hulk. Or Savage, is it Savage? Is it Savage? I always get them mixed up. It's Sensational, I think it's Sensational, which is the first appearance of She-Hulk. I think it's Sensational. I always get Savage She-Hulk and Sensational She-Hulk mixed up. Um, I think it's Savage, actually. I always get them mixed up. That book had dropped below its pre-COVID prices. And there's a little bit of an explanation for that, because the book had been sort of hyped before COVID had even happened. There was a situation where we knew that there was a She-Hulk series in the works, and that had sort of brought that book up in value. But when the She-Hulk series came out, well, it bombed. It was not appreciated by the comic community. And that book has since suffered a lot and actually dropped below the pre-COVID pricing. So there are exceptions, but a lot of the ones that got hyped up during COVID were really these speculative characters, where they were either secondary characters or even tertiary characters that really didn't have a fan base for them. And bad shows or bad movies really didn't help those characters build a fan base. So a lot of them kind of returned to either previous pricing or even dropped below, where fans were actually felt negative towards those books and they dropped in value. Another thing that was happening during COVID was a lot of the books had been sort of brought into the market. Like when you see prices doubling every week, you generally will kind of dig through your own long boxes and then say, hey, maybe I should send off these books to CGC or start putting them on the marketplace, because the prices for them are peaking. So what ends up happening is the market gets flooded with a whole bunch of books that weren't there normally. These books were ones that probably would have stayed in somebody's long box if it weren't for the record prices being set during COVID. So what happened was, now you have this flood of books on the market, and that now these books are just now floating inside this marketplace of buyers and sellers, and it's just kind of floating in there and bringing down the prices. And that's really what we saw this year, where these books have just been gradually going down more and more. Another thing that we're starting to see, and I say this as being something that's happening, a new trend at the end of the year, is books are no longer appearing on the market for certain Silver Age keys. And I think that's because people are a little bit afraid of putting certain books onto the market, because they either paid a lot for them, or they they paid a lot for them, and they've seen the recent sales for those same books. Like a good example is the last Heritage auction. I didn't see Amazing Fantasy 15, which normally you see 1 or 2 copies of Amazing Fantasy 15 come up, and there was none. So that's very unusual. And that might be that people are like, okay, I paid $60,000 for this. I'm not going to take 20. It's just not going to happen. They're not going to lose that much money on a book that they have. Now, speaking of books that are being kind of held back from the market, there was actually a weird opposite trend in the Golden Age, where all of a sudden I was seeing new books appear or new old books appear that you just don't normally see. Like typically Golden Age books, you might see some books maybe once every 10 years. Like it's really interesting. If you look at the Go Collect for them, you might see that there was only a sale like that happened 5-10 years ago, and that'd be the only sale. Or sometimes when I was doing my lists for the top Golden Age comics, I was seeing books and I would say, well, this was the only sale. It's like, it's the only time that this book has ever sold in the last 20 years. And that is very unusual, that you see that these really rare books are coming to market. And I'm not sure what that exactly means, but I do have some speculation about what that means. And one of the things that I think it means is that people are hurting right now. The prices of comics have come down a lot. The economy is a bit weak. And sometimes when the economy is weak, you bring out some big books in order to come up with some quick cash. And, that can happen where you see these really rare books that have a lot of value to them that haven't sold for maybe 10, 20 years coming to market for the first time in that time, and getting record sales because people are like, oh my goodness, this might be my only chance to see this book in like a decade. So they might as well buy it now. And that's been happening a lot. The number of books that I've picked up personally that I never thought I would own in my collection because I never thought I would ever see them, um, has been amazing. This has been a true buyer's market, even for books in the golden age. Whereas, as if you watch my lists every week, you see the prices are going up and up and up. But it's still a buyer's market in the respect that it's different than the modern. The modern thing, it's a buyer's market because the prices are so low. With the golden age, it's a buyer's market because there's availability of books that you just don't normally see, and that is exciting to golden age collectors. Generally, golden age collectors have a bit more money than the modern collectors, but my point is, this is a really weird time where we're seeing books that we just don't normally see, and that's been a very exciting thing for golden age collectors. Um, the other thing that I have to say was I've been seeing a real trend with what people have been buying. I mentioned that pre-code horror has been pretty hot, but I've also noticed that people are trying to get golden age versions of modern books. And what I mean by that is Timely has been hot. So there's a lot of Marvel collectors out there who got burned with the silver and bronze and all those kind of books, but still love those characters. They're like, oh, I love Captain America. I love, Submariner. I love all these characters. Let's get books that don't go down in value. so, so what I'm seeing is a lot of interest in Timely books. So Timely is early Marvel, and that's like with Alex Schomburg covers, and these classic books that are fairly scarce. Like we're looking like less than 200 copies for most of them, or even less than 100 copies for many of them. And there are collectors that have gravitated out of the Silver Age and into that Golden Age to kind of pick up some of the characters that they love, but in a more stable fashion. So I've seen Timely's going really well, Marvel Mystery Comics doing really well, and Submariner Comics doing really well, and Captain America Comics. So there's a bunch of Marvel titles that have done really, really well since this shift that I've seen this year. Another thing is the hot artist effect is really happening. Both Alex Schomburg, L.B. Cole, and Matt Baker have done extremely well this year in terms of people collecting their comic covers. So much so that with Matt Baker that I'm seeing people advertise Matt Baker art, even if it's not the cover, it's the interior art, just in order to get that hype around the books that they're selling. So that's a new trend where people are really going after these golden age artists hard, compared to in the past. Like Matt Baker has always been popular. Alex Schomburg has been always popular. L.B. Cole has always been popular. But we're seeing it much more to an extreme nowadays where they're really hunting those artists. And that's a new trend that has been very interesting to witness, seeing the prices for those books going up and up and up. So yeah, just a really, really interesting year. Other trend that I've been noticing with the Golden Age is that we have the hot artist, we have the big Marvel books doing well, but we also have moves within those also pre-code horror I should mention first, But we also see moves within certain titles where people are gravitating to certain genres of books. So, for example, romance books haven't really been as strong as some of the other good girl art books, like the humor books. But that has changed significantly as people have been hunting these hot artists. So what I've seen is like wartime romances, true love stories, Cinderella love. Those books that were maybe overlooked in the past, now being sought after. Like it's like a new group of collectors have sort of learned, oh, there's this artist also did this style of book as well, and you're seeing like they're branching out more and really going after a broader range of titles rather than just you know the typical like Phantom Lady, Phantom Lady, or Seven Seas, or they sort of branched out into the more romance books, and so I'm seeing those books doing really really well, and it's just that what ends up happening, and this is maybe after a year of promoting all this stuff myself, in a way, I feel like I'm promoting a lot of the golden age to the people that watch my videos, is that as people learn more about about the golden age, they become savvy collectors, and they learn that, hey, there's these opportunities that might have been overlooked for a long time, that they can sort of buy some books in that are really cool. I mean, there's a lot of really great stuff within the golden age that has been overlooked for a long time, that haven't seen the real jumps in prices that other things have, like the pre-code horror. So romance books have become this sort of new frontier for collectors. So that's been very interesting. The other thing that I worry about when I do my videos, my weekly top 10 videos, is the effect that I might have on the market. Like, I'm not saying that this is a massive channel or anything like that, but I don't really need to convince many people that, that Alex Schomburg or L.B. Cole or Matt Baker are great artists, and that, hey, you should try to find their books, to cause significant shifts in the market. And what I mean by that is, like, if you get like one or two collectors that just start chasing after those kind of books, that can have a real effect on the market. And I've seen that. I've seen that with a few friends of mine who collect the same things that I do. And we, because we are talking about it, just that discussion and that, shared interest ends up driving up the prices for those same books that we're all chasing. So it doesn't take much to have that impact. And I sort of worry about that because I still want a few cool books that I don't have yet in my collection. And I always wonder about that effect. So this has been kind of my review of 2023, the marketplace, the hottest comics of the week. I'd love to hear your comments about what you saw this year, what you experienced in terms of not just the golden age, but the silver age, bronze age, and so forth. What do you think? What kind of year was it for you? Did you buy some cool comics? Did you take advantage of those fire sale prices of certain books? Or did you go into the golden age and discover some really expensive books that are pretty cool? I'd love to hear it in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Please give this thumbs up, and also share it with other people so that they can learn about the hobby a bit. So thanks again for watching. Bye for now.